You're in charge.
All right. Hi, Gail.
Hi, Katie.
So we are doing a Zoom recording for our original Recovered True Story that was supposed to be live on Facebook, but unfortunately we ran into some technical difficulties. So we decided to hop onto Zoom, which is a really great platform that a lot of us have been using for recovery meetings anyway, and do our little Recovered Truth interview, which I really appreciate you agreeing to do with me because it's something I've wanted to build into the group for a long time now. We've had people share beautiful stories, written, narratives or poems, and people were really involved in the beginning. And then we kind of took a drift. And I really want to build it back up because Recovered Truth, the purpose of this whole group, the purpose of sharing our stories is to reduce the shame and stigma associated with addiction, right? Tell the stories of people who have recovered from this disease that devastates the lives of us and the people around us, and what we've discovered along that recovery journey about who we truly are, right? The story of the phoenix rising from the ashes is kind of what I think of when I think of recovery. And what was that? What did I lose and what did I discover? And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about tonight.
Okay.
Are you ready for that?
I'm ready.
All right, Gail. So I have some questions to ask you. All right. My first question, I guess, is, you know what, let's just start by telling everyone, what is your sobriety date? We'll keep it simple. What's your sobriety date? Where are you from? And, how long have you been doing this recovery deal?
Okay, my name's Gail. I'm an alcoholic. I got sober in Phoenix, Arizona on May 9th, 1983. I just celebrated 37 years.
Wow.
Now I'm in West Palm. And yes, I watched Katie get sober.
You did. You're my recovery mom.
Yeah.
And
My, how you've grown.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's crazy how the time flies when you're actually like enjoying life and not suffering every day.
Yes. Yes. Wonderful.
Yeah. All right, Gail. So let's hop right into it. So my first question for you is, when you started into your using, we don't get addicted right away, but as time goes on, we start to run from something. And so my question for you is, looking back on it now, what do you think you were running from in your addiction?
When you gave me that question yesterday, I told you I wasn't running from anything.
And I thought, bullshit.
But nobody's ever asked me that question before, ever. And then I slept on it, and it just kind of ate at me. And so, I did 2 Zooms earlier today, and it's like, what I was running from, me. I was comfortable in my own skin, and I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that I was addicted, and I didn't know that I was running because that was my normal. When we get comfortable with an illness, and how bad it is, when it's our normal spot, we don't realize how bad we are.
Right. And for a lot of us growing up, normal looked like addiction. A lot of us grew up in homes where we had parents who drank maybe heavily or alcoholically, or had drug addiction, right? Or there was a lot of chaos and stress and dysfunction in the home. So that all the insanity just seemed very normal to us. And I love that you pointed that out, because I do this with clients and sponsees a lot, and I'll be like, well, that absolutely was your normal. If you grew up in a house speaking Spanish your whole life and you never were exposed to English, and then all of a sudden you walk out into the street and someone starts speaking English to you, you're not going to know what's going on. You're going to think that that's like something that people don't do anywhere else, and what you do is the only way of doing things, right? So it becomes your normal. And I'm happy that you pointed that out, because you don't really know what you know until you know it, which is something my sponsor says all the time too. So looking back on it now, you think you were running from yourself, right?
Yeah, because I grew up with my dad being the active alcoholic and my mom being the little sister of perpetual revenge. And he was a functioning alcoholic. And back then there wasn't alcoholism on TV and advertising like it is today. So I didn't know that that wasn't okay. I mean, I went to my girlfriend's house and her parents didn't drink like that, but I didn't think another thing about it because that just was her house.
Yeah.
But her house was a lot more peaceful than mine. Yeah, because there wasn't all the arguing that was in my house.
Yeah. And I had a similar experience too. And I like to talk about these things because in the rooms of AA or NA, you know, it's not, we don't get to really talk about our recovery from being, you know, maybe children of alcoholics or from trauma or from abuse or other things like that. And there is a very built-in recovery process that has to happen for people who have experienced that and alcoholism and addiction, or maybe just that, you know, because it shows up in different ways, whether it's abusing drugs and alcohol or self-harm or sex or relationships or whatever, it just shows up in different ways. And so knowing that you were running from yourself is very insightful. And I'm happy that you really thought about that question, because I think that's what all of us are. And you know, I know for me, something that I was scared of finding is who I truly was, right? Because I was always told that I wasn't good enough or that I wasn't measuring up in some way. And so to discover that maybe I did have that potential to achieve things, that was kind of scary, right? Because I didn't know what that looked like when I had been told for so long that I didn't matter. And so to just be in that place of complacency of like, this is it, and not taking personal responsibility alleviates a sense of like responsibility to do better, right? And it kind of just keeps you stuck. And sometimes that's scary to look at and hard to admit.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, you just get so wrapped up in your normal that that's just all there is. You know, it's just, you don't know how messed up you really are till you you know.
Right.
And you know, and I had two brothers that I lost to this disease that, you know, were 8 and 13 years older than me. You know, my oldest brother died homeless in an abandoned warehouse. He fell down a flight of stairs and broke his neck.
It's terrible.
Because he didn't want to sit in these rooms and do what we do.
Right.
My other brother did the revolving door method of AA, where you're in and out and in and out. And what he successfully did was taught his kids how to drink and use, and they're both felons.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what they were taught. You
Yeah.
know, if you know, I have two daughters that were raised in Alcoholics Anonymous. The youngest one is 30 years old and has never had a drink or a drug. Now the other one has dabbled, and you know, she's got some issues, but you know, they're not alcohol related. And you know, it's you know, we get what we get.
Right. And it's the human condition. No one's perfect, right? And I think sometimes that's kind of a little bit distorted when we're sitting in the rooms, because we hear, oh, we're alcoholic and addict and we're the only ones who experience these things. Like, no, this is the human condition. As alcoholics and addicts, we just haven't learned how to appropriately deal with our feelings without drugs and alcohol. And that's the first step, right? Is learning that we have that unmanageability of inner unmanageability, that we have a problem feeling our feelings. And so we kind of learn how to do that in the room, and we learn how to love ourselves in the room. And so that kind of leads me into the next question is, okay, what truths, one or many, have you recovered about yourself since getting sober?
Self-esteem, self-respect, self-worth, dignity. I have pride, but it's sick pride, but I'm proud of myself.
Right.
You know, it's that old Virginia Slim commercial. You've come a long way, baby. You know, I'm not that broken piece of shit that I was when I hit the door. You know, I describe coming to the rooms like that dirty piece of gum you step on in the parking lot. That's how I felt.
Right.
You know,
That's not who you were, but that's how you felt. And I understand that on a deep level for sure.
yeah. And you don't have any self-worth and you don't have any self-esteem, but you don't know you don't have those things because you've just been running on the drain, you know, and, we just have to, as I tell the girls I work with, especially the newcomers, find one person you can trust, just one. And it builds from there. For me, my trust person was this gal named Carol. She wasn't my sponsor. She was my running buddy in recovery. My newcomer buddy, where I ran and went to meetings with her and we met to dinner and
Yeah.
and she's still sober. She's in Hawaii, got 40 some years of sobriety. I'll probably never see her again, but she helped me build the base of my totem pole. And the base has to be the strongest part. I mean, I had a sponsor, I worked the steps, but Karen taught me how to be a friend, how to trust somebody, how to ask stupid questions and be okay with it. Because that was one thing, I grew up in a home where speak when you're talked to and don't ask questions. So, it took a long time for me to get.
You didn't have a voice. You didn't have a voice. You were told that you weren't allowed to use your voice. You weren't allowed to speak up and ask for what you want and what you need.
Well, no. And if we want to know something, we'll tell you. Otherwise, don't ask. So I was shut down by, parents at a very young age. And that was my normal.
Right. And I'm so happy that you described that feeling of that dirty piece of gum on the bottom of a shoe, because what we're talking about is shame, right? Shame is this corrosive thread that ties through everyone in the world. And I'm a big fan of Brene Brown, and it's something that's completely changed my perspective once I started researching and learning about her research into shame and how it affects people. And that's why these rooms work so well, because of what you just said, is that you came in with this tremendous amount of shame, and it was kind of validated by your experiences that you've had, and then addiction validates that even more. And you come in and all of a sudden you start to share these things that make you feel the most shame, and someone goes, me too, and then says that they did it also. And they don't judge you, they accept you, and they love you back to health. And I can tell you this, Gail, that you were one of those trusting people. When I walked out of treatment after 10 months of being in there with a bunch of other women who were in the same place of their recovery as I was, some not even as far as long, who weren't just going to get it, right? I think there was 70 of us there, and there's probably, I can count on one hand how many are still sober.
Sad.
And it is sad. It's terrible. But it's that shame is that cancer that kills us and leads us back to a drink or a drug, that inability to feel our feelings, that inability to connect with other people. And when I walked into one of the rooms and you were there along with some of those other beautiful women, you guys accepted me and you loved me and you showed me how to have a relationship with myself through the relationships that I had with you, and you taught me how to love myself. And sounds like that's what your girl did for you, and it's what countless others do. And that's what the purpose of this is to share these stories so that someone goes, oh shit, I'm not alone, right?
Yeah. And what for me, I realized that how to get rid of a lot of the shame and guilt was I did those behaviors under the influence. And if I don't repeat those behaviors, I don't ever have to feel like that again. And if I do repeat any of those behaviors, I have to look at them like a first drink, because I'm headed down that path. Mm-hmm. There was some things that happened in my early recovery with some of the people that I sobered up with that asked me to do an old behavior. And I, and my line is, we don't do that anymore. And
literally hear your voice in my head saying that to me at least once a week.
So You know, we don't do that anymore. And they went out, and it was like the icing on the cake that, yeah, we don't do that anymore. You know, we really can't or shouldn't go back to our old behaviors, because it's going to take us right back to where we came from, which is the no change, no change. I
Exactly.
heard something in a meeting today, the 3 L's that get us into the recovery: lawyer, lover, or your liver.
That's a good one. That is definitely a good one for sure.
And the one is triple A: awareness, acceptance, and action.
That's it right there. That's it right there. That's the solution right there. Awareness. What is it? Awareness, action, and acceptance.
Uh-huh.
So that's it. Accepting and forgiving and treating yourself with compassion about what's happened in the past, taking action to create new behaviors and build relationships, and being aware when you're slipping backward, and treating yourself with that tough love and saying, no, we don't do that anymore, right? We don't do that anymore. And the people around, the voices outside are just as strong as the voices within. So we have to surround ourselves with people who have that voice and go, we don't do that anymore. You, and I hope Susan doesn't mind me bringing up her name, but half measures avail does nothing. Half measures avail does nothing. Like, I hear that, I've heard countless people say that reading in the rooms, but literally she said that to me one day, and it wasn't even about recovery. It was about eating. And it just, now I can't unhear it. Like, her voice is in my head. And every time I half-ass something, half measures avail does nothing. And these same principles that we learn in the rooms, that we learn through recovery process, that we learn through having healthy relationships, have taught me how to be successful in every area of my life. It's just the same principles that we can use to be healthy, productive members of society and feel good about how we're living our lives and find purpose and meaning. And that's it in a nutshell.
I know Susie would be happy to know she's living in your head.
Yes, she would.
There's 2 more that I wrote down, and I got these from a Chicago Zoom meeting, which is where I've been going every day. PMS, poor me syndrome.
Oh yeah, the victim mentality.
Victimese.
Yeah.
Dangerous place for us not to go. Victimese.
Yeah.
Pour me a drink.
Yep. And so I just want to, before we hop into the next question, I just want to kind of put into context when people say the victim mentality, because being a social worker, I take a very strengths-based approach, and I have to, we're very aware of language and how it affects people and perpetuates feelings of shame or unworthiness or whatever. Victim mentality doesn't mean that you weren't maybe victimized at some point in your life. Like, you could have very well been victim to abuse. You could have very well been victim to some type of horrible atrocity. And listen, I get it. I have been victim to those things. But the mentality is that, am I going to be victim? Am I going to still allow this person to harm me over and over and over by the story and the beliefs that I have about the situation? Or am I going to shift into a new story about who I am? Am I going to become the victor, right? It's no longer about blaming and complaining. It's about shifting into acceptance and action, which is I like what you said. It's like, I am responsible for my healing. And with that, I think that brings us to this last question, and I think it's very important. And for you being in recovery for so long, I know this is going to be tremendous. What truth do you want the world to know about recovery, about people in recovery, and about recovery?
You can live in the solution and not live in the problem, and be really happy. You know, I got here by divine intervention. I met a guy, of course, while I was out there drinking, and he asked me if I wanted to go to meetings with him for support. And I was so sick, codependent at that time that, of course, I did. And, you know, I couldn't be happier that I asked those questions, because I'm still here, you know, and that was, you know, I'm one white chip wonder. And I'm very happy to say that I haven't found it necessary to pick up a drink or a drug. Um, you know, I don't care who knows I'm sober now. I got nothing to hide. I run a business. My clients know I'm in recovery because you just never know when someone, and that's going to come back. Somebody's going to call and say, can you help me? Because I don't have to be ashamed of who I am anymore. I don't live the way I used to live. Thank you, God. Values today. I have self-respect. I actually figured out what I wanted to be when I grew up. Because when I got here, I had no skills, none, cashiering and waitressing, just was not, the top skill set for me. And, I just did the work. I was willing to let someone else direct the show because I had to, for me, do it somebody else's way. Because my best thinking earned me this seat.
Right. You had to learn the way of being.
Yeah. I don't have to live like that anymore. Thank God. There is a way out. There's so many blessings in recovery if you just shut up and let someone else help you think and follow their path, because they've done it successfully. You haven't, otherwise you wouldn't be walking in the rooms.
Right.
And when I first got here, I wasn't that bad because I always hung out with people that drank and used myself. That way I didn't have to look at me, I could look at you, and that was my whole MO. I changed so much. I got a backbone. I know how to say no now. I have boundaries today, strong ones. And those are the things that I didn't have any of when I hit the doors.
Right.
I know how to have a solid, healthy relationship. I was married for 33 years. Happily. Oh my God, what a concept. Yeah. And I, wasn't from any advice from home that I learned how to do that. It was from the rooms.
Right.
Yeah. And, he passed last January, but, and life goes on. And when those things happen, we don't have to pick up a drink or a drug. I knew when he was diagnosed that life was going to get a whole lot different. And it was going to suck for a while. But I also had enough knowledge from the last half of step 4, or step 3, when I walked in the doors, it was God as I understand him. And that's what drew me in. And then I've been here long enough to know that I can trust the outcome. I know things are going to be okay. So I knew things were going to be okay. They were just going to be different. And they were going to suck for quite a while. And they did. And it's like I didn't go through enough shit last year. He died in January. In March, I had breast cancer. It's like, oh my God, And I've learned not to say what else can happen because he answers those prayers.
Oh yeah, you gotta be careful with that.
Yeah, I didn't have that. And, but I got through that too. You pack your ice pack up, you go to the women's meeting, and, they loved me through it and got me through it, and I'm fine.
Thank you, God.
But those are the things that we can get through today. We can do anything.
Yeah. We
can do absolutely anything today.
Right.
If we're just willing and want to. We gotta want it, just like when we hit the doors. You gotta wanna.
Yep, you gotta want it, and you gotta, and from what I'm hearing you say is that you have to be willing to surrender and know that it doesn't make you weak to say I don't know, right? I don't know.
I didn't know a lot.
Right. And a lot of people get stuck in that place because they feel like if they surrender, it makes them weak, or that they don't have the willpower or the strength to stop. This isn't something that we do on our own. We're not meant to do things alone. God put other people in this world to help one another. We need connection, right? And so for you, it was that surrender, admitting that you need help, getting to a place of humbleness and just saying, yes, I'll do whatever you tell me to do because I don't know how to stay sober. And in that, you've discovered, that you're resilient AF, and you can make it through anything that this life throws at you, and that each little thing that's thrown at you is God's assignment for your life, and you work through it and you move on, and then you tell somebody else how to do it. That's why we're here, right? We learn how to make it through these things, and then we help somebody else get through them.
Right. When I was early in recovery, and I mean not real early, I'm talking Phoenix, and I got some kind of major catastrophe that I thought I had at the moment. And, I went to someone and I said, why me? And their response was, why not you?
Right.
And I was like,
excuse me.
Excuse me, don't you know who I am? And so, being a typical alcoholic, I wasn't happy with that answer. So I asked somebody else. And they told me something that I've hung on to this day. Sometimes we go through things so that we can help another alcoholic.
And it's that simple.
I do that.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have gone through it, and I know you have, call Katie. She's been there.
And that's it right there. To hear somebody else say, me too, and you can't get through this, sometimes that's all we need, right? That's all we need. And that's the whole basis of this entire journey in life, in recovery, and relationships. And I'm just so grateful that you hit on so many important things tonight, Gail. And I'm so happy that you were my first person to come on here and do this with me. And you can throw some of your sponsees under the bus to come do it with me too, so we can start building some momentum and hear more stories of these miraculous things that happen for us in this program, and the discovery of finding out how strong and capable and brave and just amazing we really are, and that we don't have to live in the slop. And I keep saying that word because my boss says that word all the time, but we don't have to go back. We don't have to go back to the slop anymore. And I never use that term, but it's really what it is, like we can step out and live an amazing life today. And you are a prime example of that. So thank you so much, Gail, for coming on here and being vulnerable.
I'd be more than happy to throw all my sponsees under the bus.
And then I can be pretty persistent too. So just give me their names and I'll reach out.
I'll send you contacts, honey.
They're gonna be like, "Damn it, Gail! Why'd you give this girl my number?"
I was in a Zoom meeting today, and I was really pissed off at noon. I mean, thoroughly pissed. And I messaged one of my buddies, and she threw me under the bus to this girl chair in the meeting, and it's like, I didn't want to share.
I think that's called like something like accountability or something like that.
Yeah. She goes, you got to share. And it's like, but I don't want to. I didn't want to dump it there, but okay.
But now you are.
I called my sponsor, and she was busy. So, yeah, it's all right.
And it worked out, didn't it?
It always does.
Trust the outcome, right, Gail?
Get out of the way and trust the outcome.
Hell yeah. I'm going to give you a virtual hug. Are you ready?
Oh, I love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much for this. I'm going to pop off of here. I'll shoot you a message on Messenger when we're done. Okay?
Okay. I'll shoot you some comments.
Yay. Love your face.
Bye, baby.
Bye.